Morse code.
I got it. I know exactly what you said.
Well, it's a great pleasure to have Ken Reynolds talking to us today, and thank Ken. You got it, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, so my assignment was to investigate Sons of Norway in South Africa, if there was such a thing. And turns out there isn't. But, okay, so thank you for coming. No, I investigated there are equivalents, so we'll investigate that. But I'm an English South African with 25% Welsh blood. As far as I knew, no Norwegian at all. But I had two uncles who were Norwegian, Uncle Eric and Uncle Harold. Unfortunately, Uncle Eric was my dad's best man, so it was just a title that we kids gave him. So they weren't related, but they were Norwegian. They had sons, Trygve, Tatchell, they called him Tatchell, I don't know, it's probably Hell, right? But anyway, that's beside the point. I want to go now back to 1966. It's important to get some background. I wanted to have a winter sports holiday, and there were two choices, Switzerland and Norway. Norway won. Norway had fjords, and it just seemed so interesting to me. Anyway, I started to learn the language via linguaphone. You're old enough to remember that everything was records put on turntables, some of us, anyway. And we had language records, and I learned from those. And something called, what is it? I wrote it down. Norwegian in 3 months. That's not bad, it was good. But I also got pen friends. Started to learn it. I've got 4 pen friends, girls, and started writing to them in Norwegian. And that helps a lot. You have to figure it out. A year later, I traveled to Norway and I stayed with the families of my pen friends. And I learned to ski, winter sports. Do you see this handsome young fellow? That's me. Wow. It's strange though, because this is a church, a sportsman's kapel, which was about maybe an hour from the home of my first pen friend. And to get to the church, we all went as a family along a track. And Norway is very hilly, and there's lots of hills between their home and the church. And you're always going down. At the bottom of the slope, every time there's a tree, and the track bends sharply to the left or the right to avoid going into the tree. And you're going in grooves, slippery grooves. So you go down. I'd learned to stay on my feet, but I hadn't learned to turn, especially in groups. So I fell deliberately before hitting the tree. Better consequence. Well, by the time I got there, people were saying, "Who's this snowman?" How rude. And they introduced me. This was some foreigner from South Africa, so that explained a lot. Hardly ever seen snow before. Anyway, I learned to ski, and next slide. This is Randi, one of my first pen friends, Randi from Oslo, who taught me to ski in the backyard. And they got the skis on. Snow was about 1 meter deep, 3 foot deep. And I got going, and there's a big slope. There's always slopes in the way. And a fence. and I was heading towards the fence, and I said, "Hvordan stopper man? How do you stop?" And then she got off. "Ah, no, there's a car." And I remember somebody saying, "Kom a bil." There's a car coming. But I knew how to stop. You just fall down. And then you try to get up, pushing yourself, and the arm goes all the way in. Okay. I stayed there for just over a week with the family speaking only Norwegian. I don't think they could speak English too well, but anyway, I didn't want them to. And so I learned quite a lot. There was even a budgie, Husa, the budgie, who flew around all over the house. And he was always talking. So I think I learned as much from the budgie as Okay, then I went to Bergen next. And my next one was also Randi. I'd written to her. I haven't got pictures of the others. She had 2 sisters, Anna and Lena, and she just got married when I got to Bergen. But that's okay, she had 2 sisters. I started writing to this one afterward, and later on this one. And we lost contact, but I've got friends, they're all my friends again now, the families. It's great. After all this time, reconnected through Facebook, which is good. Okay. Anyway, so this one, Randi, she came over to Durban with her husband and little daughter in 1972. They were working on a boat, they were officers. So when they came to Durban, they'd heard of a place which I'd never heard of. I showed them around all the scenes and everything, but they wanted to go to something called the Sjömanskyrka, which is the Seamen's Church. And that is the equivalent of Sons of Norway, you might say. I had no idea about this. This was the days before the internet. I had no idea. But here was the Sjömanskyrka, and you could go in at any time and have a cup of coffee, proper coffee. Spoon would stay up.
Yes.
And Norwegian food, cakes and all that. And they had events and things like that. What a discovery. This was thanks to them. Of course, they knew about it because they were on a ship. It was a Sjömanskyrka, Seamen's Church, so they knew about it. They just wanted to go to it. All right, so I visited St. Olav's Church many times after that. Just pop in for a chat. Very, very nice. Now I want to move on. In 1982, I married Linda. We met at university. She was a first year. I was a mature 3rd grade student because I only started when I was 30. We emigrated to Anchorage, Alaska in '87, and 2 years there. And then and Anchorage is very much like Norway. So it was quite nice living there. But who wants
it's not.
Who said that? Who wants to really live in a country where it's dark for months and then the snow starts to melt and turn grey and then everything is wet and then the mosquitoes come out and then you have summer where after the mosquitoes you get about 6 good days, which are fantastic days. It gets up to about 65 degrees and that doesn't sound much, but it really feels good. Okay, so that's rather like Norway, isn't it? But if you're born there, okay. We got out. We came to Virginia Beach. Sometime around 2003, I renewed my interest in Norway, And I somehow found out about an organization called Sons of Norway. And I called up, I spoke to a fellow called Ralph Peterson. And I asked him, you know, what it was about. He said, you should come, try it out. I said, I'd love to do that. And I did, and I really liked it, I enjoyed it. And then I said, but I'm not Norwegian, so I guess I can't join. Funny enough, Ralph said, oh, it's okay, we'll take you. We'll get over that. You know how nice of him. And I've been a member since then. Okay. He, you know, I went to lots of meetings after that. A lot of people could speak Norwegian. And this was fantastic, getting that language back. I wanted to mention that I took a DNA test recently, and I'm 5% Scandinavian, so so I belong, right? Fast forward, I was asked to do a topic for a meeting, and I thought, why not Sons of Norway in South Africa? Okay, everybody seems enthusiastic about that. There was no such thing. Apparently that's just a North America thing. Canada's got it, right? And United States, but nowhere else. The closest thing seemed to be the Siemens Church, St. Olaf. They had no formal meetings, no associations, but there was a sizable community living right there in Durban. Now, let's go back to history. There was something called the Deborah Expedition. So could I have the next slide? Sailed from Bergen in 1879 to establish a Norwegian colony on the Indian Ocean, atoll called Aldabra. This expedition was aborted in Madagascar, which is up here somewhere. Let's just point out this map. This is Natal, South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal now. Pietermaritzburg, where I live. Durban, about 50 miles away on the coast. Those of you who've read my book will know these places. About 100 miles south is Port Shepstone, and we'll learn more about that now. The first group of Norwegian immigrants settled in Port Natal, which is now Durban. There, of course, we've got St. Olav's, established in 1880s. This is these grotty little pictures, I'm sorry. Missionaries of the Norwegian Mission Society were active there till 1922. After that, the Siemens Mission took over the church, became Siemens Church, that was so popular with navies and cargo boats. Okay, that I think this is new. I don't remember this, but this is the church, and apparently the church burned down in '87, and things might have changed a lot after that. Later, the Mission Society took over again, but like other white Lutheran settlers churches, and this is where it hooks to my book, which is all about apartheid in South Africa. It wasn't confined to just the English and Afrikaans whites there. The white Lutherans, settlers churches refused to be a part of the black Lutheran church because of racist attitudes. So, strange, but true. So that's the tag said that I would tie this into my book. There it is. Yeah, but there was another one too. My book was about the evils of apartheid. Here it was, propagated even by Norwegian immigrants, as with Dutch and English immigrants. So it makes you kind of sad, doesn't it? I dug deeper and found there was actually quite a large settlement, also in the province of Natal, in Port Shepstone, which we saw earlier. Sorry, more pictures, just. Do you have to zoom it each time? That's the same thing, so. You can see the church in the background there. And the next one.
Oh no. You have to do it.
That's the altar.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And the next one. This is the Norwegian hall where all the activities happen. We'll hear more about that later. Okay, next one. And more of the interior of the church. And gets smaller and smaller. Auditorium, or I don't know, it's a church, I guess. It's the main part of the church with a screen. All right. Digging deeper, I went to the settlement in Port Shepstone called Marburg. This was considered the only successful Scandinavian settlement in South Africa for some reason. Today, it's a suburb of Port Shepstone city. This is the Norwegian church again, in that city. Originally established in 1882 by Norwegian immigrants, 90 families from Sunnmøre. You know it? Sunnmøre. I don't know where it is. I hadn't heard of it.
On the west. Northwest coast.
Northwest, yeah.
I don't know the band, but all is involved.
Okay. Anyway, each family was awarded a lot and could build a house and could cultivate the soil. Of course,
And what year was that, Ken?
1882,
Oh.
before your time. There's also a Norwegian museum, apart from the Settlers Church, which is here, and Norwegian museum with things the Norwegians brought with them. And I've never seen it, because of course, didn't know about all this when I lived there. I had to come all the way around this way to go back, and I would have loved to have seen this. Next one. Again, it's that's the church. That's a pretty old church, original.
Like it goes big.
Sorry, they get smaller and smaller.
I'm sorry.
Just the church from a different angle. They look better than I thought they would. Norwegian Settlers Church. Interdenominational. Now, anyway. I don't think that's the last picture. Okay, Marburg settlement was initially disappointed. It wasn't like the one at Orlison that they were expecting, where they could tie up their fishing boats. And they ended up importing their fish from Durban. And this is Norwegians, can you imagine how they felt? And they couldn't fish. This is a great embarrassment. The consequences of all these hardships for some of the settlers remained only a short while before departing for Norway. And get this, on 2 sailing ships which they built. You've got to dislike a place if you build your ships yourself and get out of there. But most of them stayed. Some settlers moved to different areas of South Africa or to Australia or New Zealand, but others persevered, and in due course a thriving community developed. With a church and a school, the original Lutheran church at Marburg is that one that you saw. I think this is inside that church. The settlement covered an area between the Umzimkulu and the Zochka rivers. I copied these down, famous names of settlers. Bierseth, Brauterseth, sounds more German, doesn't it? Holland, Schönstadt, Rödseth, and others were among this group of Norwegian. Doesn't sound too well known among you. And I copied this part down because Norwegian names familiar in this area, such as Tittelstad and Lysagar. That's how we call them at school, because those were two teachers of mine. Mr. Tittelstad taught English, and Mr. Lysagar taught bookkeeping. I don't know how you pronounce that in Norwegian. Tittelstad, I guess.
Stiklestad. It was the famous.
Is it?
Yeah, it
Really?
was a famous.
That was a big battle.
That's a big battle there.
Okay.
Trondheim.
Yeah, it's not too far. It's northeast.
North of Trondheim, I guess.
Kind of between Trondheim and Sweden, somewhere up there, isn't it?
There was a big battle there.
Yeah.
Really?
It's famous, yeah.
And Lysagar sounds German.
How do you spell it?
Leisegang. Sounds Norwegian at the end. Anyway, right, Apartheid era. In 1950, the Group Areas Act, which dictated where the different races could live, blacks there, whites there, in the best places, colours, which is a different group over there, Indians over there. They did that all over. That's where my book comes in. So that's what the book is about, where a white guy unintentionally falls in love with a coloured girl, and he can't even take her out on a date, can't live with her, but he marries her, and they try and buck the system, but then they get chased around by this evil detective von Groening. But this is what they did. They took this town, and suddenly it's classified as the Indian area of Port Shepstone. Neighbourhood suburb of Millwood was classified as the coloured area of Port Shepstone. That meant nobody who was of Norwegian blood would be living there anymore. They'd have to move from that settlement that they made because they were white. You couldn't be living in an Indian area. It's weird, isn't it? Okay. Also, this is another group in 1869, Arns, Leonard Tassen, T-H-E-S-E-N, sailed on the Albatross, headed to New Zealand. They encountered stormy weather and spent a week in Cape Town, which is in South Africa, for repairs. And they scrapped their plans for New Zealand, settling instead in Knysna in the Cape with its fjord-like port. Now, I've been to Knysna and I wouldn't call it a fjord, but it is, it's sheltered. It doesn't have huge mountains, it has mountains further off, but I guess that was the closest thing. Okay, now I want to get back to the part of Norway and Durban that I know. I'm not sure how many events they had. I wasn't on their mailing list or anything. There was no such thing as the internet. But I did know that such a place would definitely take part in Sidney 17th of May celebrations, and they did. Googled it. I Googled it? No. No, I didn't. How did I investigate? By phone, of course. It turned out they had a celebration on Sunday the closest to the date, and a picnic, like a Sunday school picnic with a barnetog and all, procession, or wearing their bunards, just like we had Sons of Norway sometimes, Sons of Norway picnics on 7 Mai. I went to one of those with Linda. It didn't compare to Oslo's, no. We didn't see Oslo's. But the turnout was good for a small community. There was a picnic with good Norwegian food, games, lots of fun, and of course very welcoming to outsiders like us, as you guys were to me. Linda and I attended one with my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and very young nephew, and we managed to get some photographs. So. Okay, that's still the old church, next one. And that's an aerial view. Just go on. Oh, this is an historic picture of never mind. Where it was. Not too important. That's a settlement in South Africa, the previous one. And this was that's back in the early 1900s. And here we have the picnic, of course, little girls in bruneids. Lots of games. Here's the parade. See the flags. This is my nephew. Quite popular with the girls already. Egg and spoon race.
Yeah.
They have those two, right? And there they are singing inside the hall, singing songs. Still look Norwegian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And lots to eat.
Fresh ice cream.
And
The second.
okay, hold it there. I have my pièce de résistance. What's that in Norwegian? Okay, might not be the next slide, but we'll see. It's coming up. That's still the egg and spoon race. I think that's the winner. This is my wife Linda. Do you recognize her? Very young,
Wow.
taking part in it. And this one, now this is very small, but what do you think that is, Astrid? The main contribution of the Sjömanskirk in Durban
Yeah.
was the coffee song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, this is longer than the one you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
But
that?
you gave us
Yes.
one.
Oh, you got
gave
it.
us one
Okay.
with more copies.
Right.
Thanks to you, we had
I
a
remember
song.
we sang
Yeah.
it all the time.
She remembers it.
Yeah, and
Every
that.
time.
We still do.
Okay, yeah, she's enlarged that by Lieben Uten Kaffe
Yeah.
Grue wenn Svar and so on.
Thank you to you, Ken. We enjoy it
So-
every time.
So that was the contribution from South African Norwegians to you.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
that's about it.
Thank you.
Very good. Are you offering to sing it?
What?
You're offering to sing it?
There's only 3 of us from the class.
Before we quit, I want to thank Ken, this is wonderful.
That's fine.
Did I understand that your two teachers were Norwegians? Is that what you said? The two men? Were your
Well, they had
teachers?
Norwegian names. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they.
Well, they had Norwegian names, right?
Yeah.
But they were your teachers?
Yes.
I think it's in
One
the
taught
Yes.
me bookkeeping and the other taught me.
That's quite a coincidence.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Ken? This has really been fantastic.
Very good.
I actually think Lazagon was newly moved to South Africa because he had a thick accent.
Oh,
Yeah, we used to tease him awfully.
Very good.
well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's
Very
wonderful.
interesting.
We're doing our 55th.